So I want to thank all of you for joining for today's security webinar. We're going to talk about critical layers of IT security, and specifically we're going to demonstrate briefly some of the key tools that we use at PBSI. Again, our goal today is not to sell products and services. Our goal is to inform. So thanks for joining. So we're going to talk briefly about ransomware. Most of you are familiar with the concept, hopefully not the reality. We're going to talk about the layers of IT security. Multi-layer security is a key principle in securing all of our networks. We're going to review briefly at least principles in spotting bad emails. We have an entire webinar on this topic, which is really useful for employees, so we'll cover that topic because it really is important. We'll look at some advanced recovery and ransomware protection tools, and we'll talk about a security training program where we can go beyond one-time training to ongoing training for staff. So thanks again for joining. So many of you know PBSI. Some of you, this is your first exposure to PBSI. We provide technology services in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana with hundreds and hundreds of clients, hundreds in healthcare, hundreds in commercial and nonprofit environments. We have lots of experienced people among our staff. 27 have been with us for 10 years or more. So we find that knowledge and stability are really important in helping clients. And we have an active security monitoring program. We've learned a lot about security in the many years we've been doing this. So thanks for joining. Why do we need protection? Most of us, you're the, quote, smart people. You want to be educated in this topic, so you probably don't need to know that the internet is a dangerous place. That ransomware is a form of malware. It's one of the most serious because it encrypts hard drives, typically. Not all ransomware behaves the same. And typically it will attempt to encrypt all of the drives to which you're connected, which makes it very dangerous. And to the degree to which any of you have had a ransomware encryption problem, you know that it's difficult. So the protections and the recovery options we're going to talk about today are really important. So defense strategies, there are many traditional security measures which remain important: firewalls and antivirus and patch updating. Employee education, there's been a lot of improvement in the tools available in this market, and then protection technologies which continue to advance. So we're going to talk about some of those today. This slide describes the overall multi-layer security protection. So the basic idea is exterior and interior security, employee education, and desktop antivirus and endpoint security. So that's all in the category of prevention. We need to have the right tools in place, the right education in place. Then online monitoring, we want to talk about detection. How do you know if your security is working? And a part of that, we're going to look briefly at a tool called Data Breach Intelligence, which is a risk management tool that identifies on your network any hackable data that would have value to a hacker. Unencrypted data that might have social security numbers, dates of birth, credit card numbers, things that hackers would find of value. You want to know about them in advance before you're hacked so that you can mitigate and make sure that your risk is minimized. And then we're going to talk about online backup, some key tools of a current technology online backup program that does more than simply backs up your data. It has specific protections and recovery tools built in. And we're going to talk briefly about an ongoing security training tool. So these are the components. So exterior protection involves a firewall. Every organization today, you must have a firewall. Firewall is an inexpensive device. You can buy a reasonable firewall for a few $100s or less. You don't want the very cheapest because they don't have the abilities you need. But a firewall by itself really isn't doing anything for you. It needs to be set up properly. So again, it's very inexpensive, but you need some expertise to know to keep your firewall silent so it's not responding to hacker probes. So they're asking what kind of operating system, what does your network look like, and we need to make sure it's set to report silence so we don't give them encouragement to know that they've got something to hack there. And then there are typical exploits where certain things are looked for on certain ports that are well established, and so fooling the outside world to redirect some of those are just basic setup things that we do routinely, and it's just important you have the expertise to do that setup. So your firewall has to be set up correctly. And then an important part of that, the most up-to-date technology firewalls, PBSI is a focused reseller and a lot of security expertise. with Dell's SonicWall firewall line, and the software running on the SonicWall firewall is a very, very important part of protection in that you can set intrusion prevention and antivirus and detection technologies in place where you want to basically with a firewall block attempts before they get into your building. So a firewall is very effective at that, but it's not perfect. There are things, particularly with email, that will come through a firewall for a variety of reasons. So the newest technology firewalls do packet inspection at a much deeper level. Won't spend any time talking about that, but because of the additional inspection they're doing, it's important to have a current technology firewall that keeps up with the speed. You can actually have a bandwidth problem. You think your internet's slow. What really is going on is you have an old firewall that's trying to do too much, and you basically have a slow computer limiting the bandwidth on your perfectly good internet connection. So another part of exterior and interior protection is wireless. So I won't talk about this today much, but obviously you need to encrypt, change passwords. There are procedures and protocols around your internal wireless that can really be, can either detract from or really improve your security. So those are the basic exterior tools. Employee education. Here's the single most important thing that is underattended in most of our organizations. There is no antivirus on earth that can protect you from a virus. So what? Why does antivirus exist? Well, it has really important functions, but the way that most security is broken in most networks is by an employee who clicks on the wrong thing, by an email that got into the inbox or an attachment, or could be from a web link, but employee education can't be overstated, and it's an important part of the protection. So then on the desktop, the very basic building blocks, which hopefully every person listening already has these things in place, but the two main components are antivirus, which is up to date. There are many fine antivirus products. PBSI use Bitdefender. It's a very highly rated antivirus, but the main thing, it comes with some of their tools and allows us to do online monitoring very cost effectively. But you must have a current updated antivirus that updates real time, directly connected with the various software manufacturers out there, Microsoft, Adobe, and so forth, Apple, so that real-time fixes are applied. And then patch management is another key part. This is something we ensure takes place on every desktop where security issues are frequently caused by unupdated software patches. Many end users at a desktop don't know this, so we want to take the control of updates out of the hands of the end user at a desktop and not rely on their expertise. And I'll briefly talk about this more, but those are really two key components. If you don't have policies and monitoring in place to handle those things, then you have risk. Okay, so the tools we'll demonstrate today: active online monitoring. You'll see briefly what that looks like. How do you know if your security and other things, not just security, are in place and actively working? We're going to look at data breach intelligence, so you know, how do you know what data might be accessible to a hacker? Really, really innovative tool. And we're going to demonstrate online backup with some protections that are built in against malware, and then we're going to look at security training. So these are the basics. You want to prevent, you want to detect and monitor, you want to be able to recover, and that's why you use a current technology online backup, and training, not one time but ongoing. So multi-layers cover each layer effectively. Real quickly, I'm going to review. Each of you will get a handout, which I highly recommend that you deploy to employees, that will describe in a little more detail the things that are on this slide and the next, where the key things that every employee needs to know is no unapproved downloads of any kind, not screensavers, not anything without approval of your manager. And if you're a manager and somebody comes to you and says, should I download this? The answer is no. If it doesn't have a business application, keep installed software off of your PCs. It's really critical to security unless it has a very specific purpose. No web links. That's a big part of education. Be very, very careful, and we'll spend more time with that. Securing my electronic workspace means on my PC, make sure I don't have extra software running and that all apps and browsers are up to date. And specifically, if my PC is running slowly, don't just think I have an old PC. Ask for review. It's not running more slowly than it used to because it got older. It's running more slowly because there's more software running, and sometimes this may be an indicator that you have malware. And PBSI will review this for you for free. If you're a security client, call us or email and say, I'd like you to take a look at this PC, it's running slowly, can you determine? And you'll see, we can see a lot of things. So helping employees know how to help engage in security is really key. So some policies that are very basic: never share my password, wireless passwords of the organization, never store written passwords. These are fundamental and long-standing. Communicating about emails that we may not send protected information, no credit card information, no healthcare PHI included in any email unless it's specifically encrypted, and there is no standard encryption for any off-the-shelf software, not Outlook, not Gmail. None of them include encryption unless you specifically provide. And we can help with that. So you can encrypt email, but unless encryption, employees need to know you cannot send Social Security numbers or things in an email or in an attachment in an email. And care needs to be taken with external storage. So there are secure and very beneficial uses of Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, and we use them at PBSI, and we help clients use them, but you need to understand some things about them. And unless you really know the encryption level that you're using, you don't want to store PHI. You can store PHI. You can store valuable and protected information on web drives as long as the right protections are in place. So again, it's inexpensive and easy. You just need to be understood. And social media violations happen here all the time, where we're texting things or including pictures in emails. These are basic. So just some education of each employee. You have a new employee at your front desk. Have they been trained? How do you make sure that each employee knows the things they need to? So email safety. Again, there's a document we'll provide that gives you more information. I'm going to cover this very briefly, but some very key things that are central to understanding is heads up, antenna up when looking at email. So one thing that's really key is what is solicited versus unsolicited email. Unsolicited email is PBSI, who you know and trust, sending you an email that seems out of character. So you get a webinar invitation from PBSI as to unsolicited. Yes, it is. Is it unexpected? Hopefully not. You're on our email list. You understand some things about PBSI. You trust it. Okay, fine. But you get an email from PBSI that says, you know, discounts on an Amazon gift card. Well, wait a minute. Now that's out of character. So just consider unsolicited and unexpected. So a solicited email is straightforward. You request something and somebody replies back, or it's a typical communication where it's completely within the realm of expectation. Then that's not going to raise your antenna as quickly. Even if you know the sender, what's unusual about this email? Hover over the sender's name, look at the time of day it was received. Just very, very careful looking for anything that raises your antenna even a little. If something seems amiss, stop. That's really key. Don't just guess. If you're uncertain, you're not 100% certain, forward the email to PBSI and have us look at it. We can do some things to evaluate any links or so forth. There's no charge for this. But just people need to know, do not risk a click. Misspelling, grammar mistakes, unusual phrasing, color, formatting, font variations. You see, these are things that might go amiss in an email that's coming from out of the country, where they might not be as attentive or familiar with some of the specifics that we're accustomed to in formats. Beware of emails that address current events, product releases, Tesla's new model, Apple's new iPhone, anytime around a holiday, anything that's related to the particular holiday, or something in the news, too good to be true, something about a presidential address when there's one scheduled. These are the things that a smart spammer will try to create topics that are of interest. Oh, I didn't know that there was some new information about the presidential address that just took place. What is that? So just be really cautious about current events. Particularly, never respond if asked to confirm information. If you get prompted for an account number or part of an account number or a reset, stop. Go directly to the vendor's site and log in separately, not as a result of a link in this email. And if there's legitimately something to do, then you'll be able to get to it. But otherwise, know that these are techniques used, and they're very dangerous because they involve giving up information that exactly what they're looking for. So always think twice. So current tactics, when it's tax time, IRS PIN number, Apple accounts, resumes, I mean, they're just, you have to be aware. So I won't spend more time on this. but just heads up, that's really the order of the day. And we're happy to do employee training for your staff, where we'll send you free links to webinars where we've done this training. You can have employees watch. It's really important. Okay, so an example here where one of our employees found, in fact, an email that came from another employee and forwarded on to our security administrator. Well, they were correct. It was purportedly sent by another employee. It wasn't. The link went to Russia. So our employee caught this. That was a kudos. And instead of clicking, asked the question to the right person and confirmed, yep, that's an example of a spoof where it was unexpected. Okay, so let's look quickly at some tools. We're going to look at online security monitoring, data breach analysis, online backup, and security awareness training. So I'm going to go now to PBSI's live web portal, and what you're seeing here is a list of all of these servers monitored by PBSI. And what happens, this is a technician dashboard. I'm not a technician, but our staff is reviewing these all day long during business hours, and there's monitoring going on 24/7. So at the top of the list, when I click on servers, if I'm a technician, the most problematic server in PBSI's customer base shows up and down the list. So what would make it problematic? Basically, we're looking for colors. If there's a red or yellow or anything but green, it would be an indication that we're going to drill into. But now, instead of exposing all of the issues that may be going on at clients, I'm going to drill down and now just look at PBSI. So we can look at a single customer, and anything else we look at today will just be related to the monitoring that we have in place for our own servers and workstations. So at the top of this list, I'm going to refer to the left-hand side. So there's where we select a customer. I'm going to refer to the north panel where we select a particular device, and the south panel where we look at details associated with the device. So if I picked a server on the north panel, down below where my cursor is moving, these are the things that I can learn about that server. So again, this is not something you need to ever do. I'm giving information about how this monitoring tool works so that PBSI, once we have this set up for you, we're monitoring on your behalf. So the basis of the way this works is we install antivirus on your servers and or your PCs, and a monitoring agent that begins a process where every 15 minutes or every half hour or every hour forevermore, they report status of a bunch of different things to an online dashboard, and the technicians are monitoring the dashboard. So that's what I'm doing right now as a technician. I'm seeing that PBSI's Exchange server, and we leave some things on here for demonstration purposes. There's a red X underneath the column of daily safety checks. So what is that? I go down below to the south pane and I see that there was a failed login check. So this is legitimately, this is currently what's showing up, technicians saying, well, there were 178 failed logins. If you have 2 or 3 or 4, that means people forgot their password. But more than that, this is legitimately, I don't know what this is. This is the current status. But the technician can see how many different IP addresses did these come from. So if we see that 77 of them came from this, and that's an IP address in Russia, well, that tells us something. And then which usernames have been attempted. So here's a case where one person was attempted 65 times, and here's Ray attempted 44 times. Well, I've been doing a lot of work on the web. Some of this may be actually legitimate from me, but this is something that a technician is going to explore. And honestly, this may be something where there's an attack going on related to the use of my name, because lowercase Ray probably isn't me. Anyway, so I'm not trying to tell stories on PBSI. I'm simply saying that having access to this dashboard, the things come to the top that need attention. So what are kinds of things that can be monitored? I'm going to just real quickly, a couple of things about servers, a couple of things about PCs. So we see the status in the south pane here. If memory is being used, here's a yellow item here on performance monitoring. So if I were a technician, I might want to go here and see on this particular server, there are 4 CPUs, and one of them, CPU number 2, appears to be using a lot of processing power. This is literally the exact current situation that's going on. This is live monitoring. And so here's on the detail tab that I drilled into, I always see on the left-hand side the last 24 hours and on the right-hand side the last 8 days. So I can see in each of these cases that this all looks fine. We're staying underneath the radar, except for on this particular processor, something's going amiss, that either we don't have enough memory allocated to it. So I'm not going to take the role of a technician and try and solve this. I'm simply saying that if a problem appears at the top level, the ability there is ability is there to drill down underneath and find out what else. So there are 20 or 30 or 40 things, critical events, all kinds of things that are logged. So security is logged and also hardware stuff. So if a hard drive is failing, or if a hard drive is growing more than 1% a day, those kind of things will be logged and identified. One more thing about servers, we can look at bandwidth. So here's a server we have connected to our firewall, and I'm going to look at the bandwidth, transmitted and received. Current status looks fine, but if I want to go to that history report, I can see that underneath the red line of what's designated as reasonable, I can look here and see that there are no bandwidth issues in the recent past that really make a difference. But this is sometimes very relevant. You have a performance issue and PBSI is monitoring your network. We have the ability to look in and see, so what is it that's taking up that bandwidth? And I'll show you we can do drill downs beneath that. So anyway, server monitoring, that's as much as I'm going to show, but it's important to monitor servers. Now I'm going to click on workstations, and this shows all the workstations at PBSI. Same thing, most problematic one shows up on top, and here's a case where there's been no deep scans. So this is a unit we have turned off in a demonstration room, and it shows up on the dashboard and could be cleared, or that scan probably should be run. So I'm going to just drill down not just to my PC. So I'm going to look for PCs at PBSI that have the name Ray. So I'm now going to click on Ray's desktop PC. So literally this is the PC I'm using, sitting at my PC doing this demonstration for you. This is my PC. So I'm not getting the view of my PC that Ray gets, I'm getting the view that a technician gets. So a technician can look at Ray's PC and see that everything down here looks fine, there are no events, but I'm going to look at some very specific things. So antivirus, what's been going on, it gives the history of what's been going on, and so you think, why would anything ever happen? The world is very difficult, and things happen. What is important is that whenever they occur, something's disinfected or deleted. If you think your PC never gets a virus that doesn't get eradicated, you're probably living in a dream world. Personally, I try to be very, very sensitive to security behavior, and still I see periodically some of these things show up, and it's impossible to find out where it came from. What you can know is that it's taken care of. Okay, so patches. I left this here on purpose, so here's a failed patch. We have automatic patch management turned on, which means that any security updates for Microsoft or Apple or Adobe or whatever other software, they automatically get processed, and here's one that failed. So if I were a technician looking at this, I'd say approve reprocessing that. So this is information to make sure that all the patches are updated on every PC. The daily safety checks that are run, we know if antivirus is up to date. So basically you're seeing that every PC is monitored and every server is monitored, and when something happens, an alert comes up and can be addressed. Okay, so monitoring, you know whether something bad is going on in your network by monitoring, but this is something that if you're a typical client of PBSI, you don't want to have to pay attention to this stuff, and that's why PBSI does this on your behalf. We're paying attention constantly to all the units on your network. So I'm going to move on now, and quickly, we will be done, by the way, by 1 o'clock. Really important to be efficient with time. I'm going to look at risk intelligence scanning. So this is one of the most innovative tools that we've found in years and years, where the concept is there is a scan that's run. It's a patented scan. Company was purchased, used to be called iScan, and now that scanning technology is built into the monitoring tools we use, where we can cause a proactive scan. This can be done one time, or it can be set up to be run every night. So the idea is you want to know before a hacker gets into a PC, one of your employees clicks on the wrong link, that PC's been compromised with a data logger or malware or ransomware. Before that happens, what would they find? What would a hacker find if that did happen? So that's what risk intelligence is going to tell us in advance. So this helps with PCI compliance, it helps with HIPAA compliance, and it's very, very cost effective to have this done. So now I'm going to go to my live dashboard, and we're going to look at this. So here is the high-level dashboard at PBSI. So of all the clients we're monitoring, this is the big picture of what we're seeing, and we know that there are some units that have apparently a lot of really valuable data, and I'm going to show you exactly what that means. So here's a PC on which there's the analysis tool believes is $11 million worth of data. Here's one with $7 million. So how does it know the value? I'll give you more information in just a moment. But I'm going to come back to Ray's PC, where we have this monitoring in place, and I'm going to look at exactly how that works. So on my PC, we have this data breach scanning running. And if I want to look into finding, so what are the issues that have happened, I click here and I can look at my own scan results. So I'm a technician looking at Ray's PC. So Ray sitting at his PC can't actually see this information. So what happened here is it went out and it did a vulnerability summary, and I got a pass because all my patches are up to date or scheduled to be updated. But unprotected data, there's $603 worth of data on my PC. So it's not unusual, particularly if you have a human resources PC or somebody's in healthcare, a transcriptionist, an office manager, a physician who's got reporting going on. There may be lots and lots of data that is there in an Excel file or a PDF. So what kind of data is it finding? I'm scrolling down now. That's $600 worth of data. Excuse me, how did it determine it was $600 worth of data? There's an algorithm built into the monitoring tool. I don't know what the algorithm is, but it values every piece of data relative to what it would be resaleable for in the hands of a hacker. So if you have a single social security number without a name, that probably didn't have a lot of value, but if you have a first name, last name social security number, then it's worth more. If it's associated with the date of birth, if it's associated with a CCV on a credit card number, I mean, the more data that's connected together, the more valuable that particular unit of data is worth. So the most valuable data out there is credit card data and healthcare data. So what did it find? It found two things on my PC worthy of attention, and here they are. So on my C drive, in my users directory, it found a document that the name of the document is sample file with dummy SS numbers. Sure enough, I placed that file there so that the scanner would find it, and sure enough, here it is. It found the data. It says there's one exposed date of birth in that. It doesn't re-expose the data, but it tells me that it found something that appears to be a date of birth. And then there's another example here where on my OneDrive, so this isn't physically stored on my PC, it's a cloud drive to which I'm connected, and a subfolder called Ray Home Docs. This is a document that in fact does contain the date of birth of my son and my granddaughter. So this is something I leave it here for demonstration. I don't consider it particularly important as far as protecting it, but when we do a scan on my wife, who does the human resources at PBSI, we do a scan on her PC. Frequently, she's forgotten to undelete her, empty her recycle bin, to delete her deleted mail where she sent a file that had information in it. Of course, it was encrypted when she sent it, but the email was encrypted when she sent it, but the attachment to her PC on her PC is unencrypted. Only the email is encrypted, not the file. So it finds it in her Outlook sent mail. We have found files in deleted mail folders. We've found files in Outlook archived PST files. You may know that if an employee is replaced by another employee, the new employee, you set up a user account on that PC. Well, the old employee's user files are still there. So when we first did a scan, we found files in the Outlook archive files from 5 years ago from a former office manager that had data in there that was associated with an email that we never would have found, never would have gone to look in there, but the scan tool finds them all. So the basic bottom line to this is you can do a one-time scan for a single fee and it finds all the data that needs to be exposed, and then we can help eradicate the data. So each time you find a piece of exposed data, you have to make the decision, what do you do about that? Do you delete that file, or do you encrypt that file? Those are the basic choices. Or you can choose, as I've done here in demonstration, to leave it alone. So talk about PCI compliance, talk about HIPAA compliance. These are really useful and very cost-effective to have done. I almost want to say everyone listening should have this tool installed and run at least once. Okay, moving on. I talked about risk intelligence. I'm going to talk about online backup with ransomware protection. So all online backup is not created equal. And we've actually moved, many of you, maybe PBSI clients who have PBSI servers installed, and we've installed removable backup units on your servers, either tapes or cartridges, we've come to the place where we now see online backup as a better solution and a more secure solution than on-site backup. So there are many details associated with choosing the right backup technology, but the backup technology we're using now, first of all, it's encrypted. And that's really important because if ransomware gets hold of your PC or your server and it goes to your network and it does encrypt something, your backup it can't get to because it's encrypted in a removable media unit, and it's redundant. So what happens is when backup is set up, the first step is that backup takes place either from a server or a PC to a connected external hard drive usually that's encrypted at a very high level, so the ransomware can't get to it, meaning that you get backup at maximum speed on a local basis every time it's run, which is typically at least nightly. Then a separate backup from that external drive. Now your server or PC are free to do their job without being interrupted. Now that encrypted backup is also backed up to the internet. And I'm going to go now and show you what that looks like on the internet. So here is a particular server that we have being backed up, and it stores the last 30 days worth of backups. So I know that it's the 3rd of February, and yesterday was the last day backup was run, and I hover over that day and I can see, again, this is a technician or a client can get to this data, but we get an alert every day if a backup fails. So what we're looking for each day is a green bar at the top of that day. It's not unusual that we might see a gray bar on a day if the unit was turned off, or a red bar if something went wrong with the backup, or a orange bar at the top of a day if there were some files open and the backup didn't complete completely. So in this case, it's all green. That's exactly what we'd hope to see. But I can go to any prior day, hover over that day, and I can see the sets of data that are backed up. And on the very right-hand column of what I'm hovering, you can see the duration, 26 minutes, 39 minutes, 1 hour. That's how long the backups took that day. On the 23rd, I hover over a different day, and you can see totally different amount of time. And the reason that the time and the files might be different is we have rules stored where which files get backed up on which days, and generally we're backing up incremental. So it's not unusual if not a lot changed on a server. Like on a Sunday, you probably will find that it didn't take much time to back up because not much changed on a Sunday. So then we can drill into the details of the backup and the details of the restoration. So we keep the last 30 days or the last 3 iterations of every file online forever. So if you have a document that was changed twice in the last 3 years, you have every version of that document stored online that's available for recovery. And then there are preferences that can be set that limit the bandwidth that is used for a backup, change the rules associated with a backup, all kinds of things. It's very flexible, but the key is it's very secure. You have a local backup and you have a redundant internet backup automatically. Okay, so that's online backup. Last topic, security awareness training. So I briefly covered some of the basic elements that we want to make sure every employee knows about, how to evaluate bad emails, the things to keep my desktop secure. But the fact is, rarely do we learn by documents. You put a document, attach a document, put it in my inbox, and I'm going to read it at exactly what level? Well, some people will, and they'll understand it when they read it, but most of us, documents don't communicate as well as some other mixed media. So a live speaker, a webinar, some information to give context, usually that's better. But still, you train an employee, and then a year later, has that employee been trained? Well, if they were trained a year ago, how much do they remember? How top of mind is it? Are they still thinking that it's really critical to evaluate every email? So this program we have found and love by a company called KnowBe4. We're signed up as a reseller. You need to purchase at least 100 seats when you sign up for a license. So a lot of smaller clients just can't use this program. But since we've signed up for a large number of seats, we can do it for 3 employees at a client or 6 employees. And it's, again, very cost effective. But the bottom line to this security awareness training is irregular, ongoing training with mixed media. So it starts where you'll see a demonstration today of how this works, But if you said, okay, I want to sign up for that, I'd like all of my employees to receive irregular emails, the email won't be coming from PBSI, and they won't be coming from you, security administrator at my company name. They'll be coming from Amex or someplace else. We're going to set up emails that look like they're coming from the outside. And they can look like they're coming from another employee. It's not a bad thing to do to have your CEO, quote, CEO, sending an email to other employees that's not really from their email address, but it looks like it is, to try and fool people. You are trying to fool people into making a mistake so that then you can expose them to more information. So you do a baseline test and find out who are the, quote, clickers. And then you're going to ongoing email, not on the 3rd of every month because people get used to that, but irregularly. We set up a campaign, so I'll show you how a campaign is set up, and we execute this on your behalf, and you have access to the tracking tool so you can see which employees are taking advantage of the training, which ones aren't, which ones are clicking and making learning mistakes, and which ones aren't. But we're interspersing phishing emails, security tips, live videos. You'll see real quickly how this works. So we do it irregularly, we track the results, and we customize future training to meet the things that we're seeing. So I'm going to show you now how that works. So I'm now on a site that PBSI has set up to monitor PBSI's know before, and you can see here graphically we can see each campaign we've run, and I can learn things about it. So I'm going to go to I can come down and look at details, but I'm going to go to phishing history, and I'm going to look at campaigns that were run at PBSI, and here are campaign names that we attached to. So we had a campaign in November, and in that campaign, 40% of the recipients were phish prone. So this was a limited test for a total of 5 employees, 2 of which failed, and those ones we asked to fail. So if I want to see which employees and how did they do in that test, I can see here the names of the folks. And one who is really a guinea pig because we asked him to click on this so that we could show what happens. One clicked enough to be exploited, so there wasn't no real exploit. But what happened, here's the email that was sent in that campaign, and it was from it@pbsinet.com to try and make it look as realistic as possible, although we don't really have an address, just IT, and then very quickly, short email, forwarding this below, and here's the email that appeared. It came from Microsoft, and if an employee clicked on that, what they found was, you can hear that they got a 3-minute video. So there are a bunch of videos that can be played. So the idea is when you send a campaign, you send an email, and when somebody clicks on it, you determine what happens if they click on it. So I'm going to move on from here and look at what does a campaign look like. Sorry, email templates. There's 2 things that go into a campaign. One are emails and one are landing pages. So emails, I can look at PBSI email templates, or I can look at a much larger group called system templates. So KnowBe4 does all of the work. They have hundreds of templates and hundreds of landing pages that you can choose from, and they're very, very well crafted. So I'm going to look here at one example. So IT phishing email, I want to see what is that email if I were to use it in a campaign. And here's the email. It came from domain administrator. Emails are on hold, update your account. So this is the email that would be received. If I clicked on it, what happens is a 1-page training. So you've clicked on a simulated phishing test, learn this, learn this, learn this. So that's one example of a landing page where if you click the wrong thing, you get that message. So a different email will produce a different result. So I'm going to look at some of the system templates. I'll do this real quickly. And I want to look at the various categories. I'll see underneath IT, these are emails created by KnowBe4. So you can see the update date, 2017. All of these have been created and updated very recently. So they are all the time creating new templates. And if I want to look at one here where it says unusual sign-in activity, I can look at what would that email look like if I decided to use it. and then what would happen if I clicked. So I'd have the email and I'd have the landing page. So I'm going to just now quickly review. So there are all kinds of different emails in different categories, things related to holidays. You see a lot of these, Valentine's Day, they give us all kinds of choices. So then I'm going to look at landing pages. So we set up a campaign with 5 or 6 selected emails over a period of 2 or 3 months. I mean, we can choose all of those things. There's no additional cost to have more or fewer emails, more or fewer landing page options. But among the landing page options include like a basic landing page. You've seen this where it's a training email, or it might be a Google Apps login page that looks like a real landing page, but in fact it's not. So we want to have a video displayed. So this is the other example, and so forth. So for a ransomware email, the landing page would be, this looks like exactly the kind of, if you've ever seen this screen, I'm really sorry for you because it means you received ransomware, and this is an example of what that looks like. But instead of really being a ransomware page, this is from KnowBe4 saying, luckily, this was just a phishing test. Okay, so the concept behind KnowBe4 hopefully is very straightforward. You set up a campaign, you give to us the names and email addresses of your employees, and we manage the campaign. We discuss which emails you want, which landing pages you want, which training videos, and then reporting is created so you can see over time the results of each campaign, and you know who the clickers are. So, and there's history to this, so we can see over time which people clicked on which emails. So very, very useful. The idea is security training is not a one-time event, and all of our awareness will be better if we're continually exposed. So, end of our content. I appreciate your attention. We covered a lot of material. If you have questions about any of this, feel free to contact us. But we basically wanted to help clarify the tools that are available for security monitoring, and this will only get worse. We all know that. It's unfortunate, but the internet is a very dangerous place today. So you'll receive a couple of education. So this will be unsolicited. You didn't ask us for it, but you know it's coming. You'll receive an email that has a couple of handouts for your employees, which you're welcome to use. And then if you want to engage or discuss with us any of the technologies you saw today, feel free. You will get a short query when you exit the webinar, so you can give us feedback or ask questions in that response that you'll get. So I want to thank you again, especially those of you who've been clients for many, many years and trust us with your security and other areas of technology support. Thank you very much. And for all of us, thanks for your attention today. We're